Hey Internet! So this video is part 2 of a series on books. In the first video I talk a little bit more generally about my experience with books, so you can click here to watch that. Okay, so audiobooks. So if you haven't been living under a rock, you've probably noticed that audiobooks have been gaining a lot of popularity lately. In particular, the Amazon-owned company Audible.com has been plugged by a lot of really popular YouTubers lately. I love Audible and I use it all the time. When you sign up, you can get a free book, and then you pay a monthly subscription fee and get a certain number of credits based on how much you pay every month, with which you can buy audiobooks. Audible's not the only audiobook company out there, but it's the one that I use most often. You can also buy audiobooks from iTunes. Audiobooks as a thing is pretty awesome. I actually work in a biology lab 8 hours a day, all week. And listening to audiobooks is really nice because I can do things with my hands and get work done, but I can also listen to a book at the same time, and it makes the day go by very quickly. Audiobooks are also great for making long car rides shorter. I took a trip a couple months ago where it was a 6-hour long car trip, and I listened to an audiobook the whole way there, and it honestly made the drive so much easier. I think that there are both pros and cons to listening to audiobooks based on what you want to get out of your experience. On one hand, listening to an audiobook with a good narrator adds an extra element to the story. You're now able to build a stronger view of the character in your head because you have a voice to associate with them. The inflection and the emphasis that the narrator adds to the words of the book can change the way that certain scenes feel and can add another emotional layer to the book. However, I think that certain people would consider this a con. Having someone read the words of this character to you could limit your ability to imagine the character. I think that sometimes I might have imagined a character differently if I had been reading the book, but having this specific voice talking to me makes me not able to completely generate the character in my mind the way that I might have originally. This is particularly important when a narrator does voices for more than one character. It can definitely limit how you imagine certain characters when you hear them all speaking with the same voice. Overall, I love audiobooks for their convenience and ease. I've listened to a lot more books because I haven't had to wait until I had time to read them. I could listen to them while I'm doing other things. However, there is really no substitute for the freedom of reading a book and being able to create a whole world in your head. Now for the review. I recently finished the 3 books of the Shatter Me series by Tahereh Mafi. I listened to them on audiobook narrated by Kate Simses. When I initially downloaded this book, I didn't expect to have any sort of reaction to it. I expected it to be very similar to all the other young adult fantasy romance novel things that I had read before. To be honest, I downloaded it as a piece of fluff to listen to in between listening to this heavier audiobook that I was listening to. But the experience I had while listening to it was quite different. I am a huge sucker for imagery in stories. I love when something is described really vividly. But I'm an even greater fan of incongruous imagery, when the author is describing things that don't exactly go together, when you've got metaphors that don't seem to make sense when you just look at them on the surface. Shatter Me, the first book in the series, is one little metaphor on top of another little metaphor until you're not really sure if the book is anything but metaphors. When I was reading reviews online of this book, it seemed like everyone was split clear down the middle. On one side, there were people who absolutely detested this type of writing and they thought it was too flowery. But on the other side of the line were people like me who were just absolutely entranced by this unique style of writing. The plot of the series definitely left a little bit to be desired, and a lot of the critics warned about the similarity of this romance in this story to the romance in the Twilight books, which I can definitely kind of understand, but I would say I definitely prefer this story to Twilight. The story revolves around a girl named Juliet. She's 17 years old and she has this strange power that prevents her from touching people without severely harming or killing them. And at the beginning of the story, we find her in a mental asylum, having been put there by her parents. This new government called the Reestablishment has kind of taken over this dying Earth. There's not a whole lot of discussion of this world in the book because the main story focuses around the girl Juliet's interactions with these 2 boys. I really don't want to give anything else away from the story because I think it's really important to read it for yourself and watch it bloom. Overall, I think I would recommend for people to read or listen to this book if you like this particular genre. I was absolutely enchanted by it from beginning to the end. I even spent over an hour laying on my floor one night with headphones and just listening to the story. If you're gonna get the audiobook, the narrator is Kate Sims's. And when you first hear her voice, she's got like this really high-pitched voice that you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be so annoying. But she actually complements Mafi's style of writing really well. Even though I'm no Kate, I'm gonna end this video with a short excerpt from the beginning of the first book, Shatter Me, to give you an idea of the writing style. So I'll see you all later. I've been locked up for 264 days. I have nothing but a small notebook and a broken pen and the numbers in my head to keep me company. 1 window, 4 walls, 144 square feet of space, 26 letters in an alphabet I haven't spoken in 264 days of isolation. 6,336 hours since I've touched another human being. You're getting a cellmate, roommate, they said to me. We hope you rot to death in this place. For good behavior, they said to me. Another psycho just like you. No more isolation, they said to me. They are the minions of the reestablishment, the initiative that was supposed to help our dying society. The same people who pulled me out of my parents' home and locked me in an asylum for something outside of my control. No one cares that I didn't know what I was capable of, that I didn't know what I was doing. I have no idea where I am. I only know that I was transported by someone in a white van who drove 6 hours and 37 minutes to get me here. I know I was handcuffed to my seat. I know I was strapped to my chair. I know my parents never bothered to say goodbye. I know I didn't cry as I was taken away. I know the sky falls down every day. The sun drops into the ocean and splashes browns and reds and yellows and oranges into the world outside my window. A million leaves from 100 different branches dip in the wind, fluttering with the false promises of flight. The gust catches their withered wings, only to force them downward, forgotten, left to be trampled by the soldier station just below. There aren't as many trees as there were before, is what the scientists say. They say our world used to be green, our clouds used to be white, our sun was always the right kind of light. But I have very faint memories of that world. I don't remember much from before. The only existence I know is the one I was given, an echo of what used to be. I press my palm to the small pane of glass and feel the cold clasp my hand in a familiar embrace. We are both alone, both existing as the absence of something else. I grab my nearly useless pen with the very little ink I've learned to ration every day and stare at it, change my mind, abandoning the effort it takes to write things down. Having a cellmate might be okay. Talking to a real human might make things easier. I practice using my voice, shaping my lips around the familiar words unfamiliar to my mouth. I practice all day. I'm surprised I remember how to speak. I roll my little notebook into a ball I shove into the wall. I sit up on the cloth-covered springs I'm forced to sleep on. I wait. I rock back and forth and wait. I wait too long, and I fall asleep.